Hello, my name is Dr. Fear. I want to thank you for watching my video. If you enjoy listening to scary stories and watching scary video compilations, please hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified when I release new content. If you enjoy this video, I ask that you please hit that like button and leave a comment as it does help my channel enormously. Now, without further ado, kick back, dim the lights, and enjoy the story.
It was early spring 2016. I had just turned 24 years old. My friend and I reached our main spot to camp, Black Canyon Rim Campgrounds just outside of Payson, Arizona. We'd usually travel out here 2 or 3 times a year. It has some incredible views and is only a couple hours away from the city. For the most part, this area was pretty secluded. A privately owned convenience store rested just a few miles away, with a small town 20 miles before that. The entrance was on a dirt road, directly off the highway with a campground sign at the start of the road marking local wildlife, any fire hazards, and general news relevant to the camping folk. The paving is mostly linear, with maybe one fork, spanning several miles. We'd once traveled one dirt road to see how far it would take us. One of the paths would take you to another highway entrance with a ranger's tower halfway there. The other path led to a dead end. An abandoned cabin can be found on this path, a few miles in, mostly hidden, off in the distance behind some larger foliage. The snow had mostly cleared up at this point, leaving for crisp air, a slight chill, and fauna becoming active again. We'd usually spot some wild horses, several deer, and tons of critters whenever we'd come out this way. It was really the perfect time of year for a relaxing trip to get away from the city for a few days. We got in around 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. It was late for us, as usually we'd try to make it out there by noon at the latest. This trip was pretty spontaneous. We both had work during the coming weekend and decided to just go for it. The sun was setting fast, and we still hadn't picked our spot to camp. There were maybe 2 other groups, both families, parked somewhat close to the entrance, only a few hundred yards away from the highway. This time around, we just wanted to get away from humans for a while. Customer service jobs will do that to you. We drove down the dirt road, past our usual spot, and finally picked the perfect area, a small clearing, just off the edge of a hill. The whole valley could have been seen from this area, with a beautiful sunset. This would have been our main spot from then on, if the next night's incident had never happened, that is. We agreed to get a campfire going, and would just avoid building a tent this trip. We didn't have much time to do so anyway, and her car wasn't that uncomfortable. I'd sleep in the back seat, and she'd take up the passenger seat. With the window slightly ajar, we'd have a few blankets for each of us, and would fall into that unrivaled slumber. The next day was fairly uneventful. We just decompressed. I had this strange feeling through the day, like we were being watched. There were crunching leaves just out of sight every few hours, but I figured it was just the local wildlife doing their thing. My friend didn't notice anything unusual, so I didn't dwell on it. Night came, and the feeling still hadn't gone away. My friend must have felt something she didn't vocalize, though. She took some of her sleeping pills. She didn't usually need to take them on our camping trips. The nature's ambience was enough to put anyone to sleep. At least, that's what I thought. It was nearing 1 a.m. My friend dozed off in the passenger seat while I attempted to wind down in the back. I leaned against the side window, behind the passenger seat, legs outstretched to the car's back door. The window opposite of me was rolled down slightly with a cool breeze flowing in. I had been on my phone, scrolling through Facebook or whatever, when I heard something outside. A few crunches of the fallen leaves. Several paces outside of the car, I whispered to my friend,
"Did you hear that?"
But she was already out. I put my phone down and listened intently for a minute or two. Nothing. It must have been a small animal curious of the camp. I went back to my phone, scrolling through my social media. About 10 minutes had passed when I heard it again. Crunch. Right outside the door. I lowered the phone. My eyes took a moment to adjust from the light of the phone into the deep dark of the woods. As I turned my phone away from me, the backlight illuminated the window at my feet. To this day, I can't get that image out of my head. Two dirty, scabbed hands held onto the window, the fingers wrapped inside the car. The nails were long, unkempt, and dark. Behind the window, the silhouette of a face was pressed up against it. The breath would create condensation every few seconds. All I could make out were the reflection of those empty, black eyes. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. It felt like eternity, the staring contest between me and this thing. The thoughts were repeating incessantly in my head.
Why haven't they ran when I noticed them? What are they planning? Is this a face of death?
After probably 10 seconds of not doing anything, the hand slowly unclenched the window and receded into the darkness. The condensation on the window dispersed. Another couple seconds passed before I heard the dreaded crunch, 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 melodically fading into the distance. I still just sat there. What in the fuck just happened? Why didn't I do anything? Why am I still not doing anything? With that thought, my body shot full of adrenaline. I pounded on my friend's seat, waking her up from her slumber in dizzy confusion. I unlatched and kicked open the back door, and it took a moment to scan the area. Whoever they were, whatever it was gone. I scrambled to pick up any important camping supplies we left outside, and just crammed everything into the back seat and trunk, periodically looking over my shoulder, listening for those footsteps. I slammed the back door shut, and there they were, a grim reminder of the horror that had just happened. 2 handprints imprinted on the window. I quickly wiped them off the window in panic, a reaction to erase the event, I guess. I jumped into the front seat, started the car, and floored it out of there. My friend, finally coming to, asked me what the hell was I doing.
We gotta go,
I said.
There's someone out there.
I didn't see whatever or whoever it was while fleeing the scene. Speeding down the dirt road, my friend insisted that I slow down, and I eventually did. We reached the highway and I proceeded to drive 20 or so miles before we reached a Denny's where my friend asked for us to stop and eat so I could explain everything. The nightmares subsided a few months later. My embarrassment continues to this day for the state of shock that I was in at the time. Everybody says you either have a fight or flight instinct, and I'm confused as to whether I have either. I mean, I just sat there and did nothing. I frequently tend to ask myself who was out there. Another camper messing with us? A resident of the abandoned cabin down the dirt road? Or maybe something more paranormal residing in the forest, watching lone, vulnerable campers as they drift off into dreamland. We'd still go camping there in the years ahead, but never too far from the highway. Whatever it was, I hope that was the last I've seen of it.